And we begin with this story. The Embassy of Japan in Kenya, Kenya Investment Authority and other stakeholders today unveiled the Kenya-Japan Business Dialogue. This follows an agreement between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to create a common platform to resolve business issues.
Even though we are talking, of course, about the elephant in the house, about the trade imbalance, the reality is that the volume of trade is also small. So we need to expand the volume of trade so that Japan is able to benefit and Kenya is able to benefit. And then secondly, we also improve the trade balance so that we are not having a situation where we are now, where what we import from Japan is 14 times bigger than what we export.
The reason of Japan's cooperation with Kenya, so that cooperation is not only for Kenya, but also to the whole region of East Africa. So it is very, very possible for Kenyan companies in SEZ or any other place, joint venture or so Kenyan company, to produce products to export not only Japan but also other countries in this area.
All right, now on from that, we want to go over to Noah Kipkemboi, who's joining us from our City Centre studios to tell us a little bit more about, of course, what's going on with this partnership and beyond. Good afternoon, Noah. What more can you tell us?
Well, very good afternoon to you, Malika. It is matters Kenya-Japan ties, and this might be reflective of any other bilateral agreement that we have outside there or trade between two countries. Now, trade between Kenya and Japan is quite unbalanced. There is a huge deficit. As a country, we import machinery from Japan, that is, automobiles and whatnot, and we export foodstuff and whatnot. So the nature of production is quite different. That's why we're seeing they're gaining more from trade, and this particular dialogue that has been set up between the Japanese companies and Kenyan companies actually is to boost and see a way we can reduce that for maximum benefits on both ends. But crossing over, we have to understand what is happening actually in Japan, the country itself. Japan is the world third largest economy. So it is quite a vibrant economy. And we've been seeing trade wars between USA and China. How does this affect Japan? Japan actually is a major exporter to China. It exports parts and ingredients when it comes to making of electronics to China. Now, with the trade war, we have seen a little bit of a slowdown in production on China's end. That's making, trade for Japan a little bit slow down in terms of exports. At the same time, Japan has been putting some measures economically, for example, stopping South Korea from accessing or, exporting some of their goods, actually those components that are needed for electronic manufacturing, because they're saying they've released them from one of the lists that is very key because they assume that it's going to be making weapons and whatnot. So that is another issue. Since their export market is kind of dwindling, also you expect the economic slowdown to go down slightly. We saw in Q1 that it was 2.8%. Q2, it went down to 1.8%. The third quarter actually is being expected to go even further. But as an economy, it's been quite stable, considering it's the third largest, but quite stable overall. So with that happening globally and what is happening between we and Japan, it is quite an interesting venture. We are hoping that as a country, to lower this trade deficit, we will focus on one thing and one thing alone, and that is boosting, manufacturing right here and also boosting quantities. Because if our products are more agro-based, they're agricultural-based, then we have to leverage on quantities if we are to reduce that, but also boosting local manufacturing manufacturing here. And this is not only between Kenya and Japan, it will also affect the way Kenya relates with other East African and African nations, because the aim of this particular dialogue, as you've seen this particular forum, is to boost manufacturing in the country and making sure trade is efficient between the two countries, but also across Africa. So we are expecting that we have more inflows of investment from Japan, seeing more of that. We've already seen they have set up a special economic zone down in the coastal part of Kenya, and that is just one of the ways that we can boost this particular issue, making sure that we're boosting manufacturing here and creating opportunities also for our very own young men and women to be able to get opportunities. But globally speaking, Japan is slowing down slightly. It will be determined again a lot. We've seen the leader of Japan, that is Shinzo Abe, Prime Minister, His Excellency Shinzo Abe, being very careful in this era of trade war. And the way he's dealt with Trump, that is matters geopolitics, is quite careful. Actually, he negotiated with Trump not to impose taxes on electronics and rather vehicles that is being exported to the U.S. So that is the status quo. We're hoping to see more ties between Japan and Kenya. Over to you, Malika.
Thank you very much, Noah. A lot of insights coming in there from Noah Kipkemboi, telling us about the trade ties, of course, between Kenya and Japan and beyond as well, just broadening the scope of our understanding. Thank you for that.